about Atia's Legacy, the new Axie MMO. I am Ryan AF. I'll be the host this evening, and I am joined by two of Axie's founders, Jiho and Trung. Jiho, I'll let you say a few words before passing it over to Trung. Oh, Jiho, I think you're still muted.
Okay, I'm using the audio here, right? Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is Jiho. I'm a co-founder of Sky Mavis. We're the inventors of Axie. And yeah, today is a special day. I'm really excited to share some of the thoughts behind the Axie MMO. Obviously, the response to the trailer was electric. We had over 15 million registrations, over 10 million views on socials. A really, really amazing response. Right now, people are looking for something to believe in crypto and Web3 gaming. And I believe that the Axie MMO really changed the atmosphere. So, it's awesome to be here and really excited to talk today.
Wonderful. Trung, can we get a few words? Make sure to unmute yourself via Discord.
Sure. Hi guys, so it has been some time. Um, in between actually town hall, I actually had the chance to be in Denver, and myself was very fascinated by the vibe on the communities there. So it's good to join you guys online so that we can talk about the new MMO, some of the principle around it, and yeah, it's good to talk with you guys at some time.
Awesome. So let's hop right into it. We've got a whole lot to talk about. And the first question is, why is now the right time for the Axie MMO?
So I wouldn't go first. So actually have thought about an MMO for some time, but previously we had like many games to operate, and doing an MMO seems like a very overwhelming task for us. We don't have enough resources to do it, but we have known for years that MMO is a threat genre for blockchain because in MMO you have a fully functioning economy that can relate with a lot of the things we do in blockchain and crypto. So it just naturally fit with each other. And I do think that, right? So previously we have different card game that we wanted to push, and then we have Homeland. But at the end of the day, right, it becomes like too complex of a system to have multiple games to play. And then we have to execute a program we want to push for even more game. To an extent that it seems like a disconnect because you have to like care about multiple games at the same time. You have to really nail down the economic aspect of the relations between those games, how to balance AXP, how to balance different parts of the economy. So we thought about unifying all of that so we can have concentrated resources. Um, we think about a host game, right? A game that people can all dive in and play and then interact with each other. Then after that, right, once we have the foundation of the economy, we can welcome other type of experience on top of the MMO game. So it's a way for us to go bigger, right? We was very ambitious back then to go the multiple game kind of route, but it didn't go too well. So here we go again, like concentrating everything that we have into just one game, the MMO. Jeff, you might want to add something.
So I'm somebody who grew up playing MMOs. I feel like I was raised by my friends in MMOs. And, I was a 12 or 13-year-old playing World of Warcraft at that time, learning about life from people who are older than me. That's also where we started to learn about how in game economies work, about some of the issues, right? It was always really hard to sell our gold or even buy gold. There were always people kind of like skimming money from the big guild bank operations. So there was a lack of transparency. There was always like issues with the DKP system, right? Basically the reputation system and kind of real value system within the games. And but we knew that, and we could see in those early days that MMOs had these really deep.
Oh, Jiho, we lost you. Looks
Oh,
like you.
oh, sorry. So we saw that MMOs had these really deep economies and were very social. And when we think about Web3 gaming and the principles that drive it, we see that, right, the stronger a community is, the better the economy is, and that the best games are going to the best Web3 games, of course, will need to have strong economies, and it just makes it a lot easier when the gameplay is highly social. And what's more social than an MMO? There's nothing. So we've seen a lot of also like really good examples of MMOs that have these kind of pseudo real money economies, right? Games like Eve Online and RuneScape. So from the early days, it was pretty apparent that eventually there would be an MMO phase of Web3 gaming. But it's taken some time, right? Like you need to build out the IP. For example, World of Warcraft was actually right the fourth Warcraft game, right? So often it's better to bootstrap the IP through different genres that allow you to basically create this foundation of relationships and build out the world and the lore a bit before embarking on the monumental task of creating an MMO. And when we've looked back over the past 7 years, there's still a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to Web3 gaming, right? How do you basically scale to beyond 3 million users, right? Which is what Axie had, and do it in a more systematic and scalable approach? How do you get to 10 million users, 20 million users? And in order to do that, we really need to push when it comes to the economics. And an MMO allows you to create systems like war and guild wars, right? And these highly social systems that can act as better ways to balance economies and also new playgrounds for testing out new economic principles. And so, yeah, I think last year was a year where we showed that Axie was here to stay, right? We had a lot of victories. We launched the bounty board. We cleaned up a lot of the mess related to Homeland. Classic came back in 2023 and you know re- really grew a lot in 2024. So it felt like, okay, we've done a lot of the things we said that we were going to do. We kind of fulfilled a lot of the promises. What is the next thing? But we're not just going to get Axie to the next level by fulfilling promises, right? Just going around and kind of doing things that we said we were going to do in the past. There was a moment where we thought, what's the next big thing that we can do to get Axie to the next level now that we have some time and space to think?
Right, iterating and innovating. And so much of what you just said resonates with me. I mean, I think I learned how to read by playing RuneScape as a young child. But with that being said, let's actually hop into the Atia's Legacy trailer. Now, for those of you on Discord, there will be a new screen popping up here shortly that you'll need to click on in order to view this with us. And there'll be a bit of a delay, so we'll give it a few seconds for everyone to funnel over there, and then we'll give it a few seconds afterwards for it to finish with the delay before we discuss our thoughts. All right, let's start that trailer. All right. The ending of that trailer smacks so hard when Kataro runs out of nowhere and just with his aura, just the presence. I think there's a lot to talk about. Jiho, Trung, do you want to share some of your thoughts about this trailer and what gets you really excited about the game moving forward?
I'm always impressed whenever I see the trailer, no matter how many times I watch it. Um, yeah, every time it brings me some new experience. I usually just watch it, let my mind float, and then some new ideas. So shout out to our team for making this trailer really great. I hope like you guys can also feel it, right?
I feel like the art team, right? Like our art team has always kind of led the way in some ways when it comes to showing a vision for Axie, and then we're like, okay, all right, this is we just get ideas, and that really helps to guide the development. And so, I mean, I think you see so much in this, right? You see the social elements, you see the battle system, you know, what it looks like now. You have the guild battles. I think the art is obviously a highlight and super stunning. So you know, I think that it just when you watch this, you get a feel for what this could be. And different people have different like parts of the trailer that they prefer as well. And you know, I think we were able to gather a ton of awesome feedback as well that will also help us guide, you know, what we prioritize and focus on, what we adjust. One of the things that we wanted to do was create a vision for the game, share it with you guys, and then tweak it right based on what you guys said that you really particularly enjoyed, which parts you were less excited about, and we've done that in a pretty systematic way. So.
Yeah, personally for me, it's just the ability to connect with Axie on a deeper level. You know, when you're able to like really feel like you're in the game with the Axie and experience the storylines, you start to form these lifelong memories. And I've got so many of those with the games like Legend of Zelda, and yeah, I can't wait to experience that same thing with Axie. Now, next up, we have some infographics that have some statistics of community sentiment here. And I'll let Jiho and Trung take it away from here.
So yeah, I'll just walk through some of the initial stats that we gathered. So one of the things that we saw straight off the bat was that people were most excited about three things, right? The PvP battles, the dungeon exploration, PvE dungeon exploration, as well as the MMO kind of social elements. And and so yeah, like that's also helping to guide the development. Okay, like you guys are interested in like the battles, right? Like that's loud and clear. Another thing that we wanted to do is where we want all MMOs, all successful MMOs have multiple species within the universe, right? Lunacia is a planet uh, home to different species, right? Which is what we're seeing in this trailer. We wanted to see, aside from the Axie, right? Well, like what species, what characters people were interested in potentially using, right? So yeah, you see that aside from the Axie or Kotaro, we had Sapide, we had Mia. This is actually I'm yeah, we had Mia and then we have Shan, right? Shan is a Helios, Mia is a Chimera.
Can I ask, is it feel free to shoot me down, but is Kotaro, the one that we see there in the trailer, is that confirmed to be an Axie or is that something entirely different?
So we're actually experimenting with different ideas. We have Axie, right? The Axie that we all love, and are very familiar with. And then we introduce Sabide, right? To some extent, actually could be seen as right, like the beast, right? The creatures. And then Sabide we can see as some humanoid characters. And in some Eastern novel, right, there's always an idea of uh, a hybrid form, right? Merging the two so that we have a human with some characteristic of the animals. So that like once you kill a boss or something, maybe you can get right the op from the boss, and then it gives you some animal trait, things like that. So that's why we are experimenting with this idea. It's called Supreme Axie. So it's still an Axie, but then you can have the humanoid characters that go around and have very complex interactions with the environment. It's not set in stone. Maybe you have some of it, like some of the ideas in the lore already. I'm not sure if our team released something, but yeah, this is very early in the ideation process. Just want to remind you guys that right, not everything in this trailer will be implemented, right? Will be true. We use the trailer as a form of right, a very early product as well, so that we can test out the perceptions, the reaction from people regarding different concepts.
Well, I think Kotaro's been a very popular concept so far, and I love the idea personally of a supreme Axie. That's wonderful. There's a bit more of this infographic. I think we can start scrolling down. There we go. So here we have more data that we've received from the trailer.
So I think like the thing that really stands out here is that everyone knows that the art was amazing. But I think what's really interesting too is that it seems like the squad-based RPG combat also got a really, really high rating. So it seems like people feel, and understand that what we were thinking when we suspected that a squad-based combat system, right, where you're basically putting multiple axes and creatures in a squad and having them move around together, why that would be a good fit for an Axie game. Um, we also see that, yeah, people were most excited about exploring, battling, farming up and building up their homes, as well as the PvP and the guild wars. And so, yeah, this is all super useful data for helping us understand what to prioritize, um, and in some cases, what to actually deprioritize.
So you could almost
So you can
say, oh, go ahead, Trung. My bad.
So you can see it plays out. We release a trailer, we ask people for different opinions. And I really like what people have put into um, the polls here, right? The vote here, because based on this, we can know whether Sabi there, right? The people are loved or not. So it goes against some opinions, right? From some of our like core community members. Just kidding. Um, but yeah, I think it's a very interesting idea that we took it with the squad battle because we have played a lot of MMO like for years, different type of MMO, but like its own way involved only one main characters, right? To control that one characters, you nail down the progression of that characters, you upgrade, you power up the characters, go to different kind of experience. The characters either is your avatar, right? It represent your persona inside the game. But to some extent, we thought that it was too, like a little bit boring, even though, I mean, all of the MMORPG game follow that approach. So we wanted to try something new, right? And it also played well with the compositions of the Axie gameplay and the Axie design, because we have so many Axies with different traits, different skills, so that we want people to experience some part of right crafting the right team for their own experience, how to manage a more kind of complex experience. So we wanted to balance between fine grained controlling, how to really do and show some of your micro skills and some of your macro skill, right? How do you deal with one characters? How do you maybe alternate between different characters? How do you choose the positions on the battlefield so that you have some advantage? So it's also a risky idea, right? Because I think not so many games tried it before. Um, this is pretty new and original, I could say, in the setting of an MMORPG game. But it also brings some new value, right? Great value to the Axie ecosystem because then people would be good experience with different build and try to mimicking their teams for different type of experience, different game loops within the game. Um, we're excited by like working on this idea, but it's also create a lot of challenge because um, how to balance between controlling the squad of characters and how to reduce the complexity a little bit so that people don't get overwhelmed getting into battles with so many characters on the screen. Um, so we're still experimenting, and I hope with the future release, we'll have more real experience playing the game and then iterate even further.
Right. So for everyone watching, you can see right here your feedback is very important because the Axie team is literally building this game out with your feedback in mind. So don't be hesitant to share your thoughts. And with that, we'll move into some general questions that we've sort of gathered through community sentiment after the release of the trailer. And the first question will be: will everyone who pre registers be able to join the playtest? Which is coming up fairly soon here, right?
So by the end of this summer, so we are still 3-4 months away from the playtest. With the overwhelming numbers of pre-registrations participants, we will not be able to accommodate everyone. So the principles of the playtest is to help us gather different feedback, ideas as well, help us iterate the current build so that we can fix any weird feeling with the control, with the gameplay look and feel. We would want to welcome people who can write out thoughts, who can help us with analyzing the principles, whether we are going at the right direction or not. And people who can show and react to make sure that others who cannot join the playtest can also experience partly the feeling that the people who play experience. So that's the principles of the playtest. We cannot accommodate everyone, unfortunately, because we wanted to control the experience. We wanted to make sure that we have the best resources to serve the people that we invite to the playtest. So yeah, I mean, it could be sad for many people, but I think it's for the greater of the game.
I think, it's important to something that I've seen in Web3 gaming playtests is they call it a, playtest or closed beta, but they open it up to everyone. But then a lot of people will try the game and be like, oh, I don't like the game. And then and they'll probably never play again if they have like an initial bad experience, even though it's during the closed beta. Right. So we also want to be careful about, right, like putting our best foot forward with people that are, relatively new to the community. So, I think we want to get, the most important, uh, the people with different diverse viewpoints. We'll also get the Mystic Axie people, Mystic Axie holders in, of course. But, we need to be very strategic. And it's mainly right to gather some information and to figure out, whether we're on the right path. It's not, oh, get everybody, give it everybody a chance to play. That can actually backfire.
So it will be limited. Mystic owners need not worry. But for those who don't make it, I assume that there will be plenty of content and streams for you to be able to join in, and see what's going on, and you'll still be able to provide some feedback on that sense. The next question is: will Axie be the main character?
It depends on how you define the main characters. I mean, actually, will be right the main characters of the game. Um, we haven't worked on the onboarding experience yet, so I'm not sure which type of characters we would pick as a first impression for people, right? Not me when they try out the game for the first time, but for us, definitely actually is a big part of our experience, right? I mean, the game is literally called Axie Infinity, so Axie will remain a very important part of the squad, and you can also welcome new type of characters to join the squad as well, other than just Axie. So Axie, you can see in the trailer, right? Axie, Sabide, Helios, Chimera, all of those can join the squad. So in the first playtest, I think it will be mostly about Axie, and then we'll expand um, the squad formation with more characters later. So that's a current plan.
All right.
I also need to straightforwardly manage expectations a little bit, because we might not be able to support like full FD Axie in the first playtest. So we're thinking about supporting a smaller subset of them. So basically, you would have different body parts with different skills for Axie, but supporting all the body parts would be a pretty large task at the beginning. So we still want people to have different experience, try to craft different compositions for Axie body parts. But yeah, bringing your own NFT into the game might not be possible in the very first playtest.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of like the amount of work that needs to be done on the back end, and also for like balancing and just gaining data. It's going to be a lot easier to deal with a smaller subset than opening it all up all at once. The next question we have is: will the game be free to play, or will you need an Axie NFT to access the game?
So for sure, we want the games to be appealing to a broader audience base. And in order to do that, we want people to be able to try out the game, even play a lot without having to own NFT. But I think to most people, the natural part of progressing in the game is to get some NFT eventually, because you might want to build your own team, personalize your own experience and team power. So I think it's own way beneficial for people, like even Web2 people, to start learning about um, the game Axie in general, and also learn about Web3. So our ambition is to embed the Web3 elements into the game design, the gameplay, so that people can learn Web3 concept, learn about true ownership without having um, to learn a lot of the complex concepts and definitions of Web3. So it's actually very natural because we as the gamers have been used to a lot of those definitions for years, right? Like open economy, free trading, for example, um, selling your items into the shop, and then we can have some dynamic pricing, things like that. So long story short, the short answer is that if people want to try out the game, it's fully open, but it's within our expectations, within our intentions to onboard people with the deeper economy, and eventually maybe some Web3 elements.
Right. That makes perfect sense, and I think that's the right. I think out of all the games I've seen enter Web3, I think that is probably the smartest way to go about it. We'll move on to the next question here, which is: will Axie classes or parts be integrated as stats or moves or abilities in the game?
So
Well,
right now,
this is obviously yes. Um, yeah, I think that's the beauty of Axie, right? Because you want your Axies to have different stats boost or different skills, different moves inside the game. That's what make Axie special. That's what make Axie personalized to the owner, right? That's your Axie, not someone else Axie. So having that personalizations is very important. It's also help in a game that you need to spend time building, like doing deck building, doing team building, spending time theory crafting different scenarios is very important for people, right, who want to create a new build, a very special build so that others can follow. We're still tweaking, right, the balance of this. We have seen very different model, right? In Origins, you have completely different skills. In Classic, other than just skills, you also have the stats boost from the part, so that you really have to choose the class of the part carefully, so that it brings you the maximum stats that you want. And we want to push these ideas, push this kind of approach even further in the MMO game, but also leave some room for uh, new type of equipment, because in order to balance between the deck building part, right, the thing that you cannot change once you have your Axie, and some sort of equipment where you can adjust a little bit the playstyle of your predefined Axie. So we have been thinking about this a lot, and you will see in the playtest.
So you'll be able to augment your Axies with different bits of equipment. And there's actually a second part to that question, which is, will the Axie classes be restricted to specific equipments?
So we don't want to just put a restriction on top of the class. The current approach of the team is to allow people, like sometimes the creativity of the players could lead us to very like weird but highly effective build, right? So you might see some tank that have like skills from a damage dealer that's also effective in a battle, because maybe there's some passive effect that you could have on your tank, things like that. So for sure, we wanted to define clearly the roles of the Axie tanker, damage dealer, based on the playstyle you want your Axie to be. But there's no restrictions, right? There could be some start requirements you have to adhere to, but normally it could be workaround by, right, progressing your Axie enough so that you satisfy the equipment restriction, like some of the stats requirement. But yeah, we don't have any class restrictions when it comes to equipping any equipment on your Axie.
Wonderful, wonderful. So no class restrictions, but maybe a level requirement, making it so that you might need to grind a little bit harder in order to equip that next piece of item, or gear, rather. Let's move on to the next question here, which is, will collectible Axies receive special perks or gameplay advantages? And if so, what would those advantages be?
We want to talk about this, Jeff?
Are we gonna keep it close to the chest for this one?
I think obviously we've shown over the years how we're always learning about how to better come up with ways of giving collectible Axies utility in our experiences. And so I expect Atia's legacy to be the same. But I also don't want to make any promises right now because we still need to basically explore. And yeah, so we still need to explore. I don't want to make any like very very certain commitments now that are also going to like move the market. But I think we've shown right our philosophy over the years, and also right we just said that Mystic Axes will be able to play. But I think with an MMO, to be honest, right, there's a lot of different ways that we can give collectible Axes utility that weren't really possible in card games. Like card games are very, very like centered around perfect balance and stuff like that. So I think there's more flexibility with the genre.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, this next question is one that I've seen a lot, even just today in this Discord sidebar. And that is, what is the utility of land NFTs and land items in the MMO?
Maybe I'll like say, maybe Trunga, and I can add on.
I actually shared it with some people in real life when we was in events. So there could be a good chance to share to even more people. But to us, right, not only land has some of its own progression, like in Homeland, we might pursue more of that later. But at first, right, we thought about Land Plus, Land NFT as the platform for people to build dungeon. So landowners, right, could be able to build their own dungeon, replenish monster inside the dungeon, and then right, other players as a squad controller can cooperate together to solve those dungeons. So I think this is a very nice utilities for Land Plus because not only do you manage your land passively, you also need to write tricks so that you have very appealing dungeon to welcome others adventurers to join the dungeon, right? So that's one of the things we wanted to do, and we also thought about land items, whether it could function as right some of the items that give a boost to either the monster or right the characters inside a squad of adventurers. Negative buff, for example. So it's a good way to revive land items that we don't have to rely on, right? I would say permanent progressions effects from the land items. Instead, right, we could easily right tricks the effect of the land items, balance a little bit as we go to make sure that we have right a very good asymmetrical gameplay between the landowners, right, dungeon owners, and also the adventurers, the Axie players.
One of the things that Trung was telling me about a long time ago, maybe 1.5 years ago, it was actually we were kind of brainstorming stuff about Homeland at that time, right? And he told me like that there used to be this anime that he watched as a child or something like that, where there were people would create their own dungeons and they would put like loot in them. I think they were like demons would create these dungeons, and then they would put loot in them, and then right adventurers would come to like try to take the loot from the dungeon. And this was like the way that these demons would kind of make money and get souls, right? Is like adventurers would come in and try to conquer the dungeon. So there is like some inspiration there that I see. A more recent example of something like this, right, is like how the portals work in solo leveling, right, where there's like portals that are opening up and people are even bidding on them. Like basically, when a portal opens up, there's like some value creation in that moment. And so in some ways, right, like what Trung is mentioning about with the the land plots being a place for dungeons to be entered. Kind of like brings about those types of ideas in my mind. So I think it's a good it's I think, and it's also right like related to the some of the original ideas that we had around LAN, right, where it's really a base for content and right, a place where you could have portals, right, like that's actually in some of the original stuff that we wrote about LAN. So
That is incredibly exciting. I am very glad that I own my Arctic land plot, and I can't wait to see what that looks like in game in Atia's Legacy. The next question is about the economy. What will the economy look like, and how can we ensure it remains sustainable? And to add to that, will there be new burning mechanisms, and how will this impact Axie Core?
well, so I put out an article, or I put out a post about some of the principles that we have in mind when thinking about the economy, right? And this is also related to why we decided to all make an MMO in the first place, right? So one of the good things about an MMOs is that they allow for things like player-driven markets where players are specializing in different professions, they're producing goods and resources that are essential to others. This basically creates the necessity for trade when people need to specialize and create things that other players need. And there are also ideas like resource scarcity and distribution, right? So where resources could perhaps be concentrated in certain areas that people are fighting over. Things like destruction being a really good sink, right? Like, what do modern governments do when they want to, or maybe, what have governments historically done when they want to stimulate the economy? They have war, right? So we know that war in the real world and in games like EVE Online are actually, right, great ways to basically boost the economy. Also, right, like there is a destruction of resources, right? So, right, basically warfare between guilds, right, could lead to asset destruction, but also like drive spending, right? Because wars are also very emotional. You want to win, right? Like Jom talks about how like he's a guild leader in League of Kingdoms, right? And he just wants to spend money in that game as a whale so that he can dominate, right? And kind of push his guild to greatness. And yeah, social coordination, right? So MMOs are obviously very social, and wars require a lot of like large scale coordination. It requires these really tight safety nets. So yeah, I think those are some of the ideas, right? It's like we in Web3 gaming, we need more like emotional spending. We need more reasons for people to spend that are right not just about earning tokens, right? And one of the clear models that we see from games like EVE is that people are willing to spend in games like EVE, League of Kingdoms, a lot of these large guild-based war games, is that people will spend in these games because they want to win, because they want to conquer. And that's definitely a principle, right? Or a principle that really fits with a Web3 MMO.
Yeah, I actually put a lot of money into a game that called Rise of Kingdoms, like Jeff just mentioned. And by putting money in, I, to some extent, stimulate the whole game economy. I explained some of this, right, to people in real life. I actually have so many accounts that I put into different kingdoms. And by spending in those kingdoms, right, I also subsidized some sort of the rewards, something that they call heroic rewards. Right? When you spend, you also have share some of the spending as small perks to people inside an alliance. So that creates a very unique feeling because when you spend money inside the game, you are not only making your character stronger, you also have the compliment and praise from your alliance members. because right, they also get some benefits from it. They thank you for it. So that's truly a unique experience. And things like that, right, combining with making a game more fun for social coordination, it helps people, right, having a lot of fun times inside the game. Social attachment. I mean, one of the reasons I heard from my others kingdoms and alliance members, like when they are so loyal to the alliance or the kingdoms, is because they have all the friends here, right? They have a virtual life that they want to spend with their virtual friends. So it's not easy for them to quit the game because, right, they think about the responsibilities, what could happen if they leave and then the alliance doesn't have some of their institutional knowledge and impact inside the game. So things like that actually help a lot because, right? I mean, we actually have like some of the people, some of the OG in the FC communities, we have enough in real life, and we just want right to have a virtual world in which we can right like simulate some of the experience that we cannot easily get in real life. So that's actually very important, very psychological um, benefit of playing games that we want to enable in RTS Legacy.
Wonderful. Well, there's a lot to think about there. But we're going to move on to the next question here. And, over the past couple of years, we've seen a huge rise of idle games. So, rightfully so, this next question is the game going to be completely auto play? Or is it going to be more direct and active in the gameplay?
So we want to balance that. The main gameplay, we want it to be more interactive so that like, when people get into hard fight, PvP, boss fight, they really need to utilize they really need to utilize their skills so they can right win the fight. But other than that, in some of the game loop production, for example, we want it to be automatic. Imagine putting your Mystic Axie into um, one of the factories that you own to produce some materials, some items. It could be much less of a hassle for people to right just put a put an Etsy there. They might need to come back like once per day or like every 8 hours or something to collect um, the production's materials in order to not overload the inventory. But I mean, more or less, we want those kind of experience to be more manual at first and then more automatic toward the mid game, so people don't have to spend time on useless tasks that could be automated. Instead, they spend time on socializing with others, interacting, controlling the characters in hard fights. So that's the principles. Um, I personally don't want a game when it's idle too much. Because there's no point playing that. I mean, you just click buttons, you see the numbers go up, but it doesn't make sense for a blockchain games. The replayability is not enough for us to keep right playing again and again. Instead, it becomes a very kind of time killing experience that you only have to whenever you are bored. But right now, I mean, in the attention economy like this, there's actually many other types of applications that can catch attention better. By scrolling TikTok, for example, it's very addicting. So if we, right, as the games have to compete with that, it's actually a better idea to not compete on those applications' strength, right?
But that answer makes me very happy personally.
So, one of the ways I think about it is like, right, like I think you want to be able to use your skills and like certain like really important skills at the right time, right? And the timing of that really is going to be important in like boss fights and PvP, right? That's like your special skills, right? Like that's when using it at the right time, or flashing right or something like that to the right to evade at the right time. That's going to be really important. But there's also like on the day to day when you're just completing your quest, going through your day to day, your thumb, especially on mobile, is going to really hurt if you have to if you're forced to click every single time that you want to attack. And it also, so what I in those types of games, like I'll either right like click and my thumb hurts, and then I have to pull it or just hold it down. But holding it down also is kind of weird because then it also there's it's something weird, right? Where like I just end up holding it down, but then it's like, okay, why can't this just be held down on my behalf, right?
So to
So
all
I
the
was
fellow gamers out there, actually I permanently hurt my right thumb playing games.
yeah,
So
exactly. So I've been playing Moko, right? Like I'm playing Moko. I think you guys saw that I'm really good at that game actually. And yeah, my thumb, like I like I have arthritis or something like that. Because yeah, like you know, I either have to like keep clicking or I have to hold it down, which is also a little bit weird.
I think everything you said makes sense, especially for a mobile game. That there will be maybe some autoplay elements, especially later on in the game once you've already experienced that in a manual sense. But then also to have that sort of skill expression that players can really show off, especially content creators on stream, hype moments like hype moments like we've seen in tournament play. I think that level of skill expression is going to be important and appreciated. The next question, and the last question of the general questions before we move on to community Q&A, is will rewards from the current Axie game shift to the new MMO?
I think it's a little bit too early to start thinking about that or talking about that. Like, you know, I think uh, if you know, we have to see how the development is going, and you know, the way that I see it is that access rewards should always be released in the place where they're going to be the most effective. And so, you know, it's that's a you know so it's something like I think that we need, you know, need to carefully consider over time. But I think it's still too early in the dev cycle to be kind of thinking about that. Or if it's like if you're thinking about that, like you're not doing it right. Like that's not the thing to focus on right now. And it's still a little bit too early.
Wonderful. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the community Q&A. Now, these are questions that we've collected prior to the stream starting. And we'll start with Pixelated Vince. And this is a bit of a long one, but I'll try to condense it the best I can. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how important will skill expression, and we were just kind of talking about this a second ago, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important will combat skill expression and decision making be in Atia's legacy?
So strategic decision making and in combat skills are two different factors, two different pillars. So we would rate 1 to 10 for those things separately. In my personal opinion, I think in combat skills, it could be from 7 to 8. I would prefer it to be at 8 with some very special edge case that you need to right sharpen your skills even further, like require 9 to be in a very high stake tournament or something. Strategic decision making is actually required more depending on what roles you want to play inside the game. If you are just a team members, right, that wants to utilize your skills to help the alliance, the guild, then it's more on the skill side. But for people who manage the alliance, the guild, then it requires much more strategic decision making. You need to do diplomacy with others alliance sometimes in order to settle some territory, to settle some um, like rules, so that you don't make it into a dogfight every time when you have to compete. So it will be like that, and also like, making very strategic decision about the development, the progression of your own guild. That's also very important too. So I could rate the strategic decision making slightly higher than the skill base. So 1 point higher. So if the other is 8, maybe this one should be like 9.
So decent amount of skill expression then. I'm happy to hear that personally. There's a second part to this question, which is how are you approaching the integration of blockchain into the game's economy? And are there other existing games that are inspiring your economic design?
I think we talked about this a little bit, right? Like where games like old school RuneScape and Eve Online already have like pretty well functioning economies. So I think that there's a lot to learn from those as well, and a lot of the principles, right, that we've talked about already in this stream, um, are basically right, like kind of taken from them. And in addition, right, like when I the one of the people who kind of convinced us to to start working on this game is actually the CEO of Eve Online right now. Like, so we've been blessed to have a relationship with him, Hilmar, over the years, and he says that we actually really understand game economies, and that's pretty rare. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I think there's a lot to learn about these game economies, especially these MMO economies. They're already working. They already have these real money economies. It's just they're still kind of niche. They haven't hit right, like old school RuneScape and Eve Online. Actually, I think like Axie Classic, Axie might be bigger than both of them, like even right now, right? So they're still a little bit like niche, and they haven't like gone to hundreds of millions of people, and the economies haven't scaled to like, uh, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? Like I think probably the volume of Axie Infinity with 4.2 bill is probably higher than what Eve Online has done historically, if that makes sense. So there's still something missing, I think, when it comes to some of those game, really, really respected, well regarded, popular, profitable MMOs with real economies, but they're still a little bit niche. And I think like it could be right, Eve Online like is a little bit too complex and academic for people. The average Eve player has like a master's degree, right? But what would happen if you made right like everyone's been asking for a Pokemon MMO for a really long time, and Nintendo never gave it to them, right? So what if you like combine like the people who are looking for that, and also the people who are like interested in right wars like in Eve Online, that user archetype and a real money economy? What if you combine those into like one product? I think that would be something that would basically allow like something like Eve uh to to, to hit another audience. It's kind of like right, like oh and nobody cared about Web3 gaming until we made it more kind of like Pokemon or Tamagotchi, right? Or a lot of we were inspired by CryptoKitties, but when we made it about Axies, the IP and the community and the game was able to get it to the next level, right? So it's like, what are some of the real money game economies that are already working that if we just like add our Axie magic and add our community to it, can get it to the next level.
Wow, there's a lot to think about there. The fact that that Axie is in terms of economy so much bigger than these other games that we all think about and grew up with. Um, that's that's absolutely crazy to think about. But let's move on to the next question. This one is from Shiba Nobi on X, and he asks, how will Atia's legacy balance the integration of existing Axie NFTs with new gameplay features to ensure both veteran players and newcomers feel equally rewarded and engaged in the MMO experience?
It's actually a hard thing. So we haven't really get to this point yet. But I also have some ideas from the games that I play, right? They have different servers with different progressions. So when a newcomers join the game, they play in a very early servers with people who have the same progressions. And over time, right, as they progress, when they reach a point that they they are veterans enough to be in a like kind of open format wild card type of game world, then that server won't be joined with other server. And you experience the full game with others, like experienced players. So that could be one way to do it. In some other games, they have an immigration system, right? So let's say if players progressed too slow, or they stop playing for some time, then they will be able to migrate back to a newer server and start the game from an earlier checkpoint. But that requires some cost, right? So that people don't abuse the system. So I think things like that would be very important. And I do think that in a Web3 game setting, when you have an open economy, when you can do free trade with each other, it's actually less of a disadvantage for newcomers, because once you play with others with the same progression, and as you learn more about the game, you can easily maybe buy some good equipment so that you can be ahead and enjoy the other big guys. So yeah, I think it's still too early to have a very clear design of this, but this definitely something that we keep in mind when we design the game.
Definitely. All right. This next question here is from Wolfie. The question is Atia's legacy a fresh start for everyone, or does anything from your other titles transfer over? Is there any way to get ahead of others, or is it a blank slate? So I guess they're asking, is there any way they can get a head start in Atia's legacy progression, or is everyone going to be hopping in at level 1 all equal?
I think the team is looking at what integrating of the levels from Axie Core would look like. Right, it's a hard thing, right? How do you balance the need for obviously we'll need to have some sort of a leveling system within the game, but we also want to balance that with Axie Core. So the good thing I think is MMOs tend to have very pretty complex progression systems that have a lot of levers to play with.
Yeah, we actually discussed about this a bit within the team when we talk about the Axie Core levels. So we want people to have some advantage because they have spent a lot of time leveling their Axies in Axie Core. But at the same time, we want people to experience the same thing, right? Some sort of the same experience when they get to play the game for the first time together. Imagine that you have a friend that instantly get a level 60 Axie that play alongside you. That's not fun because that guy could kill steal all the mobs that you were trying to kill, and get all of your experience point. That's not fun. And we always have some trolling friends like that. But yeah, think about some dungeon with level gaps. So even if you have a 60 level Axie, it will be capped, right? So that you have the same advantage as others who have a level 10 Axie. But then we would have a very advanced dungeon, but only for high level Axies and other characters. We also thought about having some level gaps, minimum level gaps within the squad. So let's say if you don't level up other type of characters inside your squad to a certain level, then your higher level characters will be
their level will be capped a little bit to make sure that characters inside a squad uh, don't have that large of a level cap of the level gap between them. So yeah, that's some very early discussions, but the principle here is that we want people to take advantage of their time when they spend prior to the launch of Atia's legacy, and at the same time we want it to be a even playing field for newcomers and people like existing Axie community members.
Wonderful. Now this next question is from Zindel.ron, and they ask, what is your advice to new players who hasn't started their journey in Axie Infinity at all, and they want to start in Atia's legacy?
Well, that's exciting, right? Like, we definitely see this as an opportunity to welcome a ton of people to the Axie community, to the running community. I think it's one of the things that we're really blessed with is we have so many people that have been with us for 4 years, some of you 7 years. And so I think for someone, I would say for them to, even before Atia's Legacy comes out, like, come join the Discord, check out some of the games, check out Axie Classic, check out Origins, and, just become friends within the community, right? We just learned, right, that, doing some stuff with Axie Core, leveling up your Axies, these are things that can help prepare for the game to be, while you're waiting for the game. And so, yeah, download Run and Wallet, join the Axie Discord, introduce yourself. And, the community is really welcoming to newcomers. And that's one of the reasons that we've actually been able to onboard so many people to Web3. It's not because of us, it's because of, the community in a lot of ways. So, yeah, come to the Axie Discord, discord.gg/Axie. Maybe if you're, maybe if you ask this question, you might not be in here. So maybe you're watching this on YouTube or something like that.
So get involved in the community, follow the Twitter, join the Discord, and people are always willing to help you out and answer any questions you may have. This is the last question on the list now. This is from Kiss. They ask, will there be a strong lore and story? Some players want deep storytelling along with the gameplay.
So, I think that you guys can see, right, that there is a really beautiful world that's being developed. And I think, like, one of the fun things that I saw was, we have been sharing some bits and pieces about the lore over the years, right? Like, there are certain community members like Trevor that are following every little hint and thing that we're putting out. And so we definitely want to do more of this, especially leading up to the MMO. And yeah, I think people want to know more about the universe of Lunacia. They want to know more about, Axies, where they come from, why are they here, and even like what are some of the tokens, right? Like, what is the lore behind the economy and the economics and things like that. So yeah, I believe that the world building and the storytelling is going to be a really important aspect of this.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, that is the end of the community questions, but there are a few more announcements that we have in store for you, and I don't want to spoil anything. Jiho, Trung, do you want to take this over from me?
Wait, what?
Oh, we can announce the website for the pre-registration result.
Okay, so there is a website that is going live to announce the winners of the pre-registration raffles. So are we gonna release this now?
It's already
we can
on the
share it now.
screen. People are looking at it now.
Okay. Okay. Whew. Okay. All right. So should we all right, so basically we are giving out 1 Mystic Axie, 5 Origin Axies, 10 Japanese Axies, and 2,400 regular Axies. And so today we will find out, so I guess we'll go through the winners of the Mystic, Origin, and the Japanese Axies. So let's find out who got the Mystic Axie.
Oh my gosh. Is this brand new? Was this known prior to this stream today?
Yes. So this was
I must
basically
have missed out.
so what happened is, right, like basically for every referral point that you got actually also functioned as a raffle ticket into this raffle, right? And so yeah, these are basically rewards for people who were hard at work referring people. So the winner of the Mystic Axie is 0x6188. Okay.
It also shows the ticket number that player had, so you can log in and check.
So ticket number 1520. If you have 1520, you have won the ultimate prize, a Mystic Axie, one of the crown jewels of Lunacia. This is also a deadly Pagona Mystic, so a pretty rare one.
Jesus Christ. Congratulations to ticket holder 1520. What a huge prize.
Oh, so correction, that's the Axie ID. Okay. But yeah, players can go to the website I've shared in the chat, and they can also search their Ronin address at the bottom to see what they want.
Okay.
Right.
And then we have the Origin Axie winners. So 0x12 9081 0x89 2BC5 0x98 AF31 0x8F A056 0x73 71 D8.
All right. Congratulations to the Origin Axie winners. And next up, we have the Japanese Axies.
Okay. So what are these? So we got some Doku Ganryu. Some of these are also like leveled up.
Yeah.
It looks like, I believe. And we got Sakura-chan. And we have the Kawaii. So yeah, I love Japanese Axies, man. I have so many of them. I think I have hundreds of Japanese Axies actually. And like Japanese Axies weren't always limited. So when we deployed Ronin, it was only on the day that Axies migrated to Ronin that Japanese Axies became supply limited. It used to be that if you set your browser language to Japanese when breeding, you actually got Japanese Axies. So like the Japanese Axies were kind of like almost like an airdrop to our OGs who are with us before Ronin launched, right? Where if they were just doing it for aesthetic reasons or because they thought they were cool, right? They weren't supply limited at the time. They had no idea that they were going to be supply limited. And then boom, out of nowhere, they got this. So yeah, if you want a Japanese Axie, congrats. Everyone make sure to go to the site to check if you are a winner.
And then if you scroll down even further, there's all the normal Axie winners, and there's actually a search bar there, so you can type in your Ronin wallet address and find out if you've won any of the regular Axie giveaways. I actually just typed in the end of my wallet address, and I think I've won. It says I've won Trevor's hat.
Wait, what?
I think that's the name of an Axie. So yeah, type in your wallet address. It looks like people are typing in their posting pictures of their bounties in the sidebar here. Somebody's won 2 geckos. Yeah, I believe won a dish of shrimp. I believe these are player named Axies. And then if you scroll even further down, there are milestone winners as well.
I won Trevor's hat. Does that mean I won nothing?
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
But you can ask Trevor for a hat.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Nice. Trevor, you made it on the site, bro. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I was about to start searching my Axie inventory for an Axie called Trevor's hat. All right. Well, congratulations to all of the winners. We'll make sure that we post the link to this website under the YouTube VOD as well. So if anyone wants to go back and check it out, it'll be available for them to do so. At this point, we are going to end the town hall. But if you are sitting here in Discord, stick around because we're going to do some summer Axie giveaways in general chat right after the town hall ends. So look forward to that. But until then, we're going to shut it down. Thank you so much for everyone who joined. Thank you so much to Trung and Jihos for giving us all this juicy information. And do y'all have any last words you want to leave us with before we shut this thing down?
Well, I wanna say thank you to the community and for all the excitement, all the energy they brought. Like it's a hard time, right? Obviously in crypto right now, but you guys are right the reason that we do it, and I do believe that this is going to be the Axie game that you've always wanted to play, that we've always wanted to build alongside with you guys. And we've learned a ton over the last 7 years, right? It's been a crazy journey. We've learned a lot, and I really think that this is the game where we can put all the things that we've learned over the last 7 years and put them into one thing, and this can be that, right? Like we've seen so many people. We go all over the world, and people, come up to us and say that, right, Axie brought them into crypto and really help them, not just in terms of like learning about crypto or earning some crypto, but also meeting friends and meeting people who are interested in new technologies, people who are open-minded, right? A lot of people are lonely, and I think Axie and a lot of the work that we do here, I think, also helps in that way as well. So yeah, I think there's also a lot of responsibility as well, and we don't take this lightly. But yeah, so far I think this is off to a great start, and I can't wait to share more with you guys. So yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.
So when I was in SF, Hantao told me that for all the presentations that he has seen over the last 1 to 2 years, he noticed that right now the sentiment is much different. So from something that people put into the presentation, like how Axie failed, right? Right now it's changed to what Axie did right, or what Axie succeeded with So it's not only about ourselves, the industry also recognized what we have put into Axie, into all of these adventures so far. And until now, right, there has been no teams that achieved the same success that Axie has achieved. So that also say very strongly about what we did back then and what we can even do in the future. So looking forward to all the new things in Axie, and happy to have all of you guys support us.
Wonderful. And with that, we're going to shut it down. Thank you all again once more, and we will see you next time.